This entire time, I've been thinking about Kaiju number 9 as the cordyceps fungus. But it turns out I was very, very wrong. Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are going to take a fully spoilery look at Kaiju number 8, chapter 114. If you don't want to hear any spoilers, you can click away by checking out the links below the video to get yourself a copy of my book, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data. Short, absurd science fiction stories. Fun fact and a quick side note, I used this weird vine, Bocchilla trifoliata, a jungle vine, for inspiration for one of my aliens. A plant that can see via some sort of rudimentary eyes in the leaves. Scientists are still working on it. I base my understanding on the behavior of these vines on the research of scientists White and Yamashita, who graciously allowed their work to be shared for free. Turns out that very paper of theirs was nominated for and won the 2024 Ig Nobel Award in Botany. Now, the Ig Nobel Award is granted to scientists who push the boundaries of the weird and the unusual. So, go explore Humans Are Weird to learn more about how the very plants in your pots are spying on you. Now, on to spoilers. If you have been following my channel, or if you have an interest in science of the weird and wacky, you are probably aware of the zombie ants. That is, you're probably already aware of how the cordyceps types fungi use their spores to take over ants and other such creatures and manipulate their dead and dying bodies like puppets to reproduce. It's creepy, it's weird, it's nature for you. Realistic, brutal, amoral. Now, from very early in this manga, it was clear that Kaiju number 9 was linked to this concept somehow. And from the big battle with Kaiju number 8, the full might of the First Division, and even Big Daddy Shinomiya breaking out the punching gloves, it was logical that we thought that Kaiju number 9 was the manifestation of the cordyceps fungus, and the rest of the kaiju were, quite literally in this case, the ants. It was logical to assume that Kaiju number 9 was the one in control, that at some point, like a giant network of fungal mycorrhizomes sending up a single fruiting body mushroom, that the Kaiju number 9 that we know and loathe was simply a natural part of the greater fungus. Boy, and howdy were we wrong. It turns out that Kaiju number 9 was just a tiny little kaiju, small and helpless, until very recently when he was mind-controlled to put himself at the service of this larger entity in order to help the larger entity reproduce. Kaiju number 9 was just another ant in this equation of zombie ants. Or possibly the cow, the cat, or the starling. The fungal reproduction is frequently a complex process involving many stages of the food chain. The point is, however, that Kaiju number 9 was not the fruiting body, not a mushroom that is part of the main fungal organism. Rather, he's just one more victim caught in the web of something larger than himself. He still might be responsible for Kaijus 1 through 7. The time and date information would still allow for that, and it would explain why Kaiju number 1 manifested only in the early 70s, but maybe not at this point. And all of that is only the opening salvo of information we get from this chapter. Everything's just so densely packed here. This chapter has really made me question whether or not Matsumoto will let a main character die. I mean, this is a Shonen Jump manga, the plot armor is strong, but enough of my assumptions have been overturned that I am looking at that band of kanji gripping Mina's face and I am saying, maybe she does die? I mean, she has achieved her goal in regards to Kafka. They have fought Kaiju together. But given the way the plot has gone up to here, I mean, it's unlikely, but I'd have to say it's genuinely possible at this point. I mean, we still have the rest of the rookies who are now freed of their responsibility of protecting the shelters in the city from the giant white glowing golem kaiju. And we know that Reno's ice weapon, at least, has a huge range. And importantly, the Apache helicopters are still in play and ready to move instantly. And it's very significant that the Defense Force operators named the type of helicopter specifically, because the formal designation of the Apache is the fast attack helicopter. If you've ever been privileged enough to see one of those things at an air show, you know that their entire purpose is to quickly move weapons across the battlefield. They are fast. So The presence of a named fast attack helicopter brings both Pretty Boy and Army Guy into play as the best rested Defense Force officers on site in Tokyo and within range to have been brought into reach of to aid Mina at this point. So the chapter made a point of laying out at least 2 paths for Mina to receive fast backup. Reno snipping Eyeballs Kaiju from a distance, or the other 2 sweeping in, clinging to the side of an Apache. So we have the setup of Mina's kind of purpose in the story being complete and her death being possible, but there still being a way out for her to survive this. Then, of course, there is the 1,000-ton elephant lying dismembered in the corner of the battlefield. The controllers stated explicitly that they had lost Kaiju number 8's signal. It was undetectable. As far as they're concerned, he's dead. But there are 2 strong arguments against that. Every other time they lost his signal, that was just Kafka returning to human form. Not even Kaiju number 9 can detect him once he's in human form. And while he is of not much use in human form, or hasn't been up to this point, if Kaiju number 8 has fully been killed, or even suppressed, if that Kaiju core has been destroyed, that might actually cure Kafka's inability to use his Defense Force weapons. See, one theory we've used to explain Kafka's 0 and then 1% suit compatibility aptitude was that the presence of a living Kaiju inside him was acting like a massive weighted uniform, preventing his drawing the power of the Defense Force weapons. So his ability to do it at all indicates he has a fantastic aptitude that's just being suppressed. With that gone, he might actually be able to use his weapons, and when he transformed to Kaiju number 8 the last time, he did have his sidearm on him as well as his knife. So he hasn't got any big weapons, but he is at least armed. Now the other argument is this. That kanji attack was a near perfect mirror of the attack that Vice Captain Hoshina unleashed on Kaiju number 8 way back around chapter 20-ish. This is what I mean. Hoshina unleashed several attacks on Kaiju number 8 with his swords, removing several limbs in the process, then made a sideways slash at Kaiju number 8's core, which Kaiju number 8 was able to block by preemptively reinforcing his core. Making comments all the time about, I knew you'd come for my core, therefore I reinforced it, and regeneration costs me energy, it's very exhausting. In this attack, the Eyeball Kaiju unleashed several attacks, removing at least one of Kaiju number 8's limbs, before making a sideways slash that Kaiju number 8 would have had time to reinforce his core against. So Matsumoto has a clear pathway for Kaiju number 8 to have survived the attack and be simply so exhausted from the regeneration that he's tapped out and left Kafka in charge. But what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Will we see a beloved main character, i.e. Mina, die in a Shonen Jump manga? Is Kaiju number 8 dead, removed from the equation totally, or just resting? Tell me what you think in the comments below the video. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.
Escape into another world with the writings of author Betty Adams. 2 worlds, one of utter absurdity, one of dramatic tension, both alike in aliens absolutely astounded by human behavior. Humans are weird, short, absurd science fiction stories. Flying sparks, dragons, aliens, and things that go boom in the night.
Books available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play Books, and at authorBettyAdams.com for a signed copy.